The fact that this week's after the credits scene was just her cooking sprouts, and she had this elaborate cooking show in order to compensate for the fact that she's so poor that she really is eating not that great of food. So she comes up with new ways each and every episode of just adding salt or pepper or, oh wow, mayonnaise. And then you just see the numerous transitions of what she made. And then, oh, great, Landlady's here. That means she probably is delivering some actual food. And it was just a sale on sprouts. You know, at first, I was thinking to myself, this might be probably the worst after the credits scene, just at a first glance, when I was like, oh, it's a cooking show. I was like, you know what, space, wrestling, all the numerous really interesting ideas. This one probably is not going to be that interesting, but they really made it memorable in a matter of minutes, because seriously, this girl doesn't eat that well unless it's the manager or landlady helping her out. And they really impressed me with such a basic concept, but it's tragically hilarious. I honestly love the drunkenness and the BFFs and just how Landlady and Jahy really bonded in an interesting way. The fact that, they wake up and she's like, where's my clothes? And I'm like, what the hell happened when you guys were drunk? And the fact that the manager just filmed it and took pictures and laughed as she recognized that she shouldn't enable this behavior, but she can't help but find it amusing. I love what they were able to accomplish with episode 6, because the magical girl has been a very pleasant surprise. Every character's been great, but the idea that Jahy, in front of the magical girl, shits her pants, is terrified, as bad luck piles upon the magical girl because she has far too many mana crystals and bad luck is literally attacking her. I mean, that scene where the microwave fell on her head and the door opened as the rice was done, and then you just see the numerous things pile on her. At one point, there was a UFO in the middle of that pile. The absolute insanity is hilarious, and Jahy only has courage when it looks like she's not around and she's building up that confidence, or she thinks she's down for the count. And the fact that she actually lost her mana crystal, I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought the ongoing joke would be she would be scared, gain her courage, immediately lose the courage when she was there, and then bad circumstances like falling down a sewer grate and coming up horror style would be the way that she escapes that. But the fact that she actually stole her crystal, I'm wondering if Druji's going to be involved. Hey Druji, this is a mission for you. I'm the great Jahy. This horrible magical girl stole my crystal. Normally it'd be something that I wouldn't worry too much about because I have a billion of them, but I want to make sure you're still strong, right? That's the type of stuff you expect to see. And it'll be interesting because at the very least she still has her general mana crystal, so she can still transform temporarily. But it's not anything as close to that big one, and we already knew the big one is actually pretty small in the grand scheme of things, so she's definitely down for the count. And I think the idea of getting drunk and just drinking your sorrows away was probably the natural transition given everything we've seen. I just wasn't expecting the landlady to be so nice as a drunk. I kind of figured she'd be a mean drunk. She just kind of gives me the impression that she's a very mean drunk, and she would say things she doesn't mean in that way, but the fact that she was like, yeah, you're so smart, it just enabling her further and further, and just honestly, those two, I really think Landlady might be my favorite character. I think there's insanely well done characters. Druji, Jahy herself, but there's something about the Landlady, someone who's so feisty, but really, if we look at everything, she's kind of had her back, I think, the most, even a little bit up on the manager, because when the thief was breaking in, she defended her. When she's down for the count, she just always feels like if she's really about to give up on life, she's there no matter what. And don't get me wrong, manager does that as well, but there's just something about the landlady's feistiness that can shake down powerful entities from the dark realm, where you have landlady who just, continues to be this great big sister role. And it's really entertaining. I love the idea that the episode kicks off and she's very petrified whenever she hears the start of a word that is about to make her sound the alarm. She's hiding behind dumpsters, and then she actually goes in the garbage. And the fact that there's this moment with the manager where clearly they were building up this big moment okay, she's finally recognizing, right? She's going to admit that she wasn't that great of a person in the dark realm, and then instead she throws it back in her face. You know what, screw you, I'm gonna do my own thing. And they're making it super dramatic, and she just calls her out to have a bath because she smells like hot garbage. This show does have dramatic elements, but they keep the comedy always first and foremost, and it never removes from the dramaticness, because we know Jahy, right? Every episode, slowly but surely, she's building up to being more of a human and a nicer person. But because of the way she was in the Dark Realm, it's going to take a long time to get there. So she's going to have those outbursts. She's going to act like a child, which is why that character design is so perfect for her so often. But I love the fact that, like, you do see the steps being made. There was a brief moment before she stormed off like she was breaking up with the manager that she was generally, like, happy about how she was being treated, but then naturally pushed back because that's how she feels, like, deep down inside. There's some great development being made underneath all the absurdity that we witness minute upon minute. This episode was definitely one of, I would say, the top of the 6. I just really think the build-up, the falling, because, I mean, really, despite her only climbing a tree in her backyard for that crystal, she struggled to get it. It's something that she actually earned, and it felt like there was major development. To have that ripped away after probably not thinking it would happen, given the magical girl getting her ass handed to her by just kitchen appliances, it felt like she'd be okay. So now we have to get that back, but how do you get up after feeling like, you know, you spent your life savings on a backpack for an outdoor adventure that now you lost? So what is the way you go forward? Well, she drinks her sorrows away in a bar, as then Landlady kind of picks her back up. It'll be interesting. I really feel like Druji would be like the natural go-to, but at the same time, I could honestly see someone like Jahy saying, hey, Landlady, you're the only one who might be able to knock some sense into her. Do you want to come with me and track it down? I could see an adventure like that taking place, but I think she would have to pay the rent first to do so, so that's the biggest hurdle for that obstacle right there. I mean, seriously, this show has been a goddamn blessing. I really didn't think this show would end up being as humorous as it was, because you can see the formula being used and, like, taking all these different stories and crafting an episode. And I've seen so many anime studios, especially directors, handle it incorrectly and make it feel like the stories don't really match up or just can just be the way they direct the scenes. I mean, just look at Jahy's reactions, from the smugness to the petrified to the just downright down in the dumps persona. The way they constantly shift her character design around is what keeps it so energetic. And of course, the manga probably always has these funny faces transitioning, but with the colors, the lighting, and the goddamn voice actors, like, they really nailed the voice actors. The sweetness from the manager, the kind of feistiness from the landlady, the smugness and arrogance of Jahy, but that childlike crush that she can really nail. They're doing such a good job, and I'm really impressed with the magical girl. I really have to give a lot of props to that. I'm glad that it's not just going to be a simple gag of, like, she is powerful and probably could really beat her, but just bad luck continues to pile so she never makes moves. The fact that she actually stole that crystal, it actually makes it so that she'll be a threat we actually fear, because the last time we saw her, she got arrested, and for the most part, what we saw in this episode, I mean, she was getting appliances slammed on her, so there wasn't a real threat. And then when it happened, that's what makes it kind of interesting, that there could actually be stakes, which will be very intriguing. Jahy won't admit to it, but I mean, there's just paths to make it feel like there's danger without being so stressful that it loses that fun charm. Incredible episode. I'm seriously impressed by the after the credits scene the most. I really thought a cooking show would be boring as shit. Incredibly engaging and a little heartbreaking, with the drunken BFFs just being the star of the show for me. I mean, let me know what you feel down below. What do you hope to see, especially now that the crystal's been stolen? Who do you think is going to help her achieve that? Or do you think she's going to do it all by herself? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.